Just keeping every single one of those does. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather, and there's white stuff falling from the sky, which honestly is something that I hoped we would see at some point in January. I know we just had this crazy freeze come through, but ever since then, it's been basically springtime weather. And some of our perennial things, like our trees, are actually trying to flower and bud 2 months early. And even our chickens have really started to increase their production. Now we are on the other side of the winter solstice, so our days are getting longer, and that's really awesome. But there's also like a lot more like bug activity outside than there usually is. And so our girls are able to partake and really get that good nutrition in to give us some really awesome eggs, which we're really grateful to have. If you've been following, current events or going to the grocery store at all, you've probably seen really expensive eggs if you see eggs at all. So we're grateful that we have our cheeky girls, and we're really grateful that they're doing things. So the light fell right here, but I do have our whole chicken coop on a timer, because chickens, sometimes when the days are shorter and they get less than about 14 hours of daylight, it shuts down their egg laying production. So we put artificial light on our girls. Right now the light comes on at 2:30 in the morning, and that helps keep them laying through the winter. It is going to wear them out a little bit faster, like they might not be able to lay for a full 4 to 6 years, but if we're going to be feeding them, we really need to be getting something out of them. I'm rich.
$35,000 worth of eggs right there.
I think this one must be a double yoker, which when they do start laying again in the springtime, we get quite a few double yokers. It's like when their egg production and their egg cycle kind of sputters to a start, they shoot out more yolks than normal. See the difference? This one here is a normal egg, and then we have this one, which is really big. Now they will get larger eggs as they age, and some of our girls we got in 2019, so they're getting up there, especially because of what we ask out of them. They're probably kind of reaching the end of their production. Look how big these are though. We actually had a broad-breasted white turkey that would very regularly lay triple yolked eggs. I had never ever seen that before in my life. Actually been a while since we walked through this archway. There's a little bit going on in the garden still, but right now I'm in the middle of planning exactly what this is gonna look like in just a few months' time. I'm really excited for this next garden season, and I hope it's just as productive as the last one. So for right now, we do have quite a few little garlic greens coming up. Back there, that's regular, normal run-of-the-mill grocery store type garlic, and over here we have elephant garlic. There's strawberries all in here, and these beds have our asparagus. And I've been trying to watch the asparagus beds closely because I don't really want them coming out of dormancy just yet. We've been having a really warm winter, and this is, like I said, the first snow I think we've gotten in January, and the first semi-cold temperatures, but it's been in the 70s, and I don't really want the asparagus really getting a false start, because these crowns haven't, oh, I see one actually. Well, crud. See this here? That's a little asparagus spear right there. I'm gonna cover it. These crowns haven't been in the ground very long, just a couple of years, and I don't know that they've necessarily built up basically the reserves that's going to be able to have them handling a false start very well. I just don't want them to fizzle out before the real season starts. This here is one of our pear trees, and it looks like it's still in dormancy, which is good. We actually have quite a few real baby trees like that, and just like the asparagus, they're not super well established, so I don't want them wasting their precious energy on getting a false start this spring and then having to do it all over again. we actually get our real spring. I just feel like it has the potential to set them back, but I might be wrong. I have never done this tree thing before. I've never worked with perennials like this before. So if you know a little bit more about that, I would love to hear your advice, your encouragements down in the comments below. This here is a cherry tree. See how tiny it is? And then this one is a hazelnut. And I noticed yesterday that the hazelnut is starting to bud out a little bit. See here, this is a hazelnut as well. Hi Hamish, what are you doing? I know my bees are over here tucked up very tightly because it is a very chilly day today. And with everything kind of coming out of dormancy early, that does include my bees. So we're having to keep a really close eye on them because they're going to be collecting pollens and nectars and things from the trees that, not just on my property, but everywhere, are going to be coming out of dormancy a little bit early. And if the bees also get a head start a little bit early and then they get hit with a really, you know, several weeks of really low lows, it can really throw them off. Yeah, we're still good. So we still have 7 for 7 on colony survival, but we haven't hit the hard part of the year yet, even though they've been through some really cold times. They did so when they were all built up and in the beginning of winter when they had all of their resources and they had all their huge populations and things. As we get closer to March, that's when things get a little bit harder for the bees, especially if they start to try to get things going a little bit early. So we might not have 7 for 7 come March, but I hope we at least have one. I think we will. So it's really nice in the greenhouse right now, not because the sun's been out and has filled this area with any kind of warmth, but there is a really great wind block in here, and so it's actually tolerable and my ears can thaw back out. So my garden plan for this coming year. I'm gonna get more in depth with the garden plan in another couple videos. As I've talked about previously, I really want to make our raised bed garden more of a perennial area. I really want to kind of designate it for things that take a little bit longer to come to fruition, like sweet potatoes, like the garlic, things like that. And in here, this is where I want to have our spring and summer garden, the production stuff that has a really fast, really quick turnaround, things like tomatoes, peppers. I'm gonna actually do cucumbers this year, and I really hope to have a good run of beans this season too. This greenhouse is 40 feet long, but each row is right around 30 feet long. And so I'm really trying to plan this out well to where I can grow what we need to grow for this coming year without, you know, possibly growing too much of any one thing. If you followed me this last season, you know that we actually filled this greenhouse with, it was supposed to be 3 things. It was supposed to be tomatoes, peppers, and beans, but I had a real bad slug issue in the beginning of the year and our beans just got ate down to nothing. Every time I set out beans, they got eaten up. It was actually quite a disappointment, but we had a bumper crop, or like a really amazing crop of beans a couple years ago, and we still have lots of beans in the freezer, so that's a really huge blessing. And this last year, we had so many tomatoes and so many peppers that I don't think I really need to grow nearly as much of that this year, because we have a lot of that put away and I have a lot of that in the freezer as well. But I'm really excited about the spring and summer garden in here. It's going to be like a little Garden of Eden in this area. I want to put in some arched trellises and stuff, and I'm so excited. So excited. So I started our spring garden just a couple weeks ago, and everything has germinated relatively well. Some stuff, I know I've got some old seeds and it didn't germinate as well, but I got plenty for what we're gonna need for our family. So over here on this side, I have our purple cauliflower. It's more like a broccoli to me in texture, but we've got lots of that going and it's always done really well for us. So excited to see plenty of that came up. I have another type of broccoli here. I forget the name of it. I think it's Waltham 29. So we've got that going. I have some cabbage over here and a couple rows of kale, as well as some yodfa broccoli. Now my yodfa broccoli, I only got 3 of them to germinate, so I think I am gonna start a few more of those seeds. It's kind of one of those things where it's only necessarily worth growing if you can grow probably a good handful of plants, about 5 to 10, because you pick the sprigs kind of sparingly, and we have a big family. We have 6 people in our family, so if I want a nice bunch of yodfa broccoli to use for a dinner and I want to pick it all at the same time, I need a little bit more than 3 plants. Also, I need to kind of plan that maybe we're gonna have some slug or other pest pressure. So I really do wanna grow more than I need. I don't wanna grow exactly what I think I'm going to want or need, or else I'm probably going to be disappointed, because disease and pests, those kinds of things happen. So they're definitely worth planning for. But overall, I'm really happy with this germination, and it's so funny to be able to just hold all of our future harvest from our spring garden, our frost tolerant garden, all in my hands all at once like this. It's pretty cool. The potential of it is just amazing to think about. Hey guys, so it's the next day and we have a roof on the honey house. It's coming along great. So the outside, the walls are going to be black and the roof is going to be red. I did get a question of whether or not I thought that that was going to be an issue in the summer as far as heat goes, and yes and no. We are going to insulate it and we are going to make it climate controlled in there, so I think ultimately it'll be okay. But ask me again in the middle of summer when our heat indexes are 115 again. I may regret that, but hopefully not. I figured if I was giving you an update on everything else, so we better make our way down to the barn. So if you guys have been following our goat herd a little bit, you know that we've been making a few culls, or at least plans to be making some culls. And a cull is basically just you're removing that particular goat from your herd for one reason or another. It doesn't mean they're a bad goat. They just don't fit the situation or the future goals for your farm or homestead. So really, these babies are eating me alive. Look at this. Look at them. Hi, boys. I'm gonna miss them. Those 2 boys, they're going to their new home this Friday. Hi, buddy. But really, our goals for our herd are basically milk in the pail and pest resistance. But I'm also starting to work on a mini La Mancha herd. So really the hope is that I can take the good parts of my La Mancha herd, the good parts out of my Nigerian herd, and combine them together to have a really awesome, like, mini compact milk machine. And while I was thinking about how all of that is going to work, I realized that I can't exactly use my Nigerian does in that program at all. From what I understand, when you work on a mini herd, you want to try to avoid breeding the doe as the smaller individual. So it wouldn't be smart for me to pair up one of my Nigerian does with my La Mancha buck, for an example, because that's too big of a baby for a Nigerian dwarf to bear. These boys. Ow, you act like you haven't eaten. Maybe I'll sit. If I sit, will you be okay? No, Biz. So you can breed back, and it's smart to breed back to a standard breed. You don't always have to breed mini La Mancha to mini La Mancha. If you want something to come out of one of your standard La Manchas, you'd breed them back, but I can't exactly take a half La Mancha and breed it back to one of my Nigerians either. So I have quite a few goats that are on the chopping block, as it were, but I am in no way going to be getting rid of every single one of my Nigerians. If you're following us on our community page, you saw that I am keeping Pesky, the Nigerian. She's a really awesome milker. I really like the way that she looks. I really like the way that she produces. One of the reasons that I love my Nigerian dwarves is that they are polyestrous. So they'll go into heats all year round, and I can really plan my breedings out to get a good supply of milk all year round. So the goats are really only going to be be giving good peak milk production for a few months after they kid. They really peak out at around 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks after they have their babies. And then depending on the goat and depending on the circumstances, they can keep that milk production pretty high for a few months, but then it does start to wane over time, especially after the kids wean. So I like to try to keep us in a steady milk supply and a steady and elevated milk supply. So I want to keep Calamity. Calamity, don't be mean. He knows it's the Calamity show. He does. Trust me, we all do. So I want to keep back some Nigerian does to breed with my Nigerian bucks, just so that I can have a steady access and a steady supply of winter milk. I've talked to a few different people who have let me know that the mini La Manchas that they have bred have been seasonal with their heats. So a lot of dairy goats will go into heat in just the fall time and they'll have their kids in the spring. And I guess the mini La Manchas keep up that tendency. So I want to be able to retain goats too that are able to give me my winter milk, because that's really important to us. But I do have a larger capacity milking goat that is also polyestrous. Our goat Schwenli is going to be staying on the farm. She's not going anywhere anytime soon. I love her. She's my Kiko Nubian. And like I said, she is polyestrous. So she has a pretty large milk capacity, being part Nubian. And really, Kikos are essentially a dual purpose breed for meat and for milk. And that's why we have her. She delivers good sized babies with good muscling, and she gives us a good amount of milk for honestly a good amount of time. Shveni, she's right over here. She's gonna be 3 years old in February, so just next month. And this will be her 3rd time having kids, but it's gonna be her 1st time having standard size kids. I know, you're a little bit shy. The last couple of years I bred Schwenli to differing Nigerian dwarf bucks, and this year she is bred to Hamish, our La Mancha buck. And this year I plan to keep back a doe, possibly 2, out of Schwenni. I have a feeling if she has more than 1 doe in there, it's going to be very hard for me to decide. But one of the deciding factors is not only going to be what the goat looks like as far as conformation goes. I want to keep goats of good conformation that will have healthy bodies and live healthy lives. But also, as you know, La Manchas have the little tiny or non-existent ears, but Schwenni, she's got the biggest ears in the barn. And so if one goat has funnier looking ears than the other, I'm probably going to pick the funny looking one. I'm not going to lie. They're going to be beautiful. They won't be funny looking, huh? But Schwenli, hands down, has the best FAMACHA score every time I pull down her eyelids. She was kept with a herd that was basically a hands-off herd. They never helped with kidding, and they never really dewormed them. She did give them some diatomaceous earth sprinkled on their feed, but that was it. So she comes from really good genes, and I really want to perpetuate that here. Like I said before, I've had her for 3 years. I've dewormed her 1 time, and it wasn't because her FAMACHA looked really terrible at all. I just noticed a difference in her hair quality. Dewormed her then. She regained her hair quality back, and I haven't had to do anything with her since. She's been a rock star and a workhorse, and I love her, and I'm really excited for her mutt babies. I also plan to retain every single doe that these 4 La Manchas have. So we have Christine, who's a standard La Mancha. She's bred back to Hamish, so she will be giving birth to standard La Manchas. And then these 3 La Manchas here, Talia, Calamity, and Elpis, they are all bred to our Nigerian dwarf buck Havoc, and they will be giving birth to F1 generation mini La Manchas, keeping every single one of those does. Come on, Elpie! Good girl. What a good girl. You can do it. Good girl. forget to mention too that we just opened up our first little mini launch of merch for Sage and Stone Homestead. So thank you to those of you who did already buy some shirts. It really is pretty awesome to see that so many of you want to support our channel in this way and wear a little bit of Sage and Stone Homestead on your backs. So if you're interested in seeing the little bit that we put together, I'm gonna put the link in the description and in the pinned comment below. I do have much bigger plans for merch and for sale of things from our farm in the course of the year, so look forward to that. This is the first little bit, but it's pretty exciting for us, so go ahead and check that out. Good one. Good girl. That was good. That was good.